Flight simulation has been a supplementary part of live flight training since Edwin Link delivered his first simulator in 1927, with airline and air logistic companies around the world seeing increased operational tempo and more complex missions. Simulator training remains a critical part of pilot training as a means to enhance training safety and operational readiness. Owing to this, more and more airline operators are seeing the need to bring this training closer to home, especially as the foreign exchange issue bites harder in Nigeria. On the program, we'll take a look at new simulators installed in Kenya and Lagos. A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television, your home for the latest happenings in the sector. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.
A flight simulator is a device that artificially recreates aircraft flight and the environment in which it flies for pilot training, design, or other purposes. It includes replicating the equations that govern how aircraft fly, how they react to applications of flight controls, and how the aircraft reacts to external factors such as air density, turbulence, and wind shear. In the East African country of Kenya, a Dash 8 Q400 simulator has been installed to help train pilots. It's a move its main user, Kenya's first low-cost airline, Jambojet, hopes will help it cut costs incurred by flying pilots abroad for training.
So it's by international, the coordinates are correct.
The simulator in operation is based on a 2019 deal between FSI, Kenya Airways and Jambojet. Kenya Airways is the country's national carrier, while Jambojet is its no-frills subsidiary. FSI is among the world's leading producers of flight simulators.
So do you see where this arrow is?
Chief pilot Michael Kwinga of Kenya low-cost airline Jambojet climbs into a newly operational Flight Safety International Dash 8 400 simulator. After the required checks and under the watchful eye of Flight Inspector Joseph Strong, Kwinga takes off.
As you can tell, if I'm training to go to Dubai International, I can actually do it over here.
It has enhanced navigation system, it has enhanced visual system. So the learning experience for this particular simulator here in Nairobi is quite fulfilling. As a flight crew member also as well, who is based over in Nairobi, it means less travel time, obviously, for me to be able to quickly move from the working line operations and the line environment to come to their training environment at the ease of me just driving over here in Nairobi without having the extra travel, and be able to quickly turn around back onto the flight line to continue with normal flight operations.
Jambojet's new fleet of 5 de Havilland Canada DHC-8 aircraft, known as Dash 8 around the world, are critical parts of the regional airline strategy to recover from the job and pay cuts it had to make as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The blow to African airlines after the COVID-19 outbreak was forecast at $40 million by International Air Transport Association IATA last year. For Jambojet, the equipment is a cost saver.
Whenever the trainings are done outside, you end up having lower productivity because you have to the traveling time outside there, and even sometimes missing the slots. Sometimes to get the slots was quite difficult. So when it is in here, it brings in efficiencies. The cockpit crews, pilots' productivity is higher, and it's cheaper in terms of you don't pay any hotels, you don't pay any travel.
Kwinga and his colleagues will continue to train for the 6 destinations they currently fly to, and the company is making plans to expand its routes. Jambojet began operations in 2014, and its simulator agreement is also open for business to other industry players. Within the vast grounds of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, Nigeria, the Reality Full Flight Simulator configured for the AW139 helicopter is installed at Carverton's Training Center. Here at the site acceptance event of the simulator, a French delegate and the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority take the simulated flight, traveling through the world of technology to Marseille and back to Lagos.
It's the kind of investment we need in aviation industry in Nigeria and Africa so that we can grow the industry to be a much greater significant contributor to the national economy. And we will always work with investors like Aviation. We'll always give them all the support we can to ensure their growth, their future development and growth.
And this partnership is a wonderful symbol of our friendship and of our partnership. It's an amazing investment you did. And second, you invest in technology, you invest in innovation. And we are proud that Thales is part of the plan for innovation and technology of the future. And we are really proud also to have in our country
the Thales Reality H full flight simulator level D, which is one of the world's most advanced commercial helicopter simulator, will be used to provide superior scenario-based flight and mission training to AW139 helicopter operators across the African continent, as well as Caverton's pilots and crew. With this simulator, Caverton will deliver state-of-the-art training, including initial type rating, recurrent training, and proficiency checks for both visual flight rules and instrument flight rules, offshore and onshore missions, as well as VIP operations to unprepared landing sites.
As we went along in the years, we realized that we lost a lot of man hours of pilots going abroad to be able to train. And we wanted a situation where we had our own device, where it has our own Nigerian database. So it flies to locations such as Lagos, Port Harcourt, Escravos. Those are the locations that we fly to. And most importantly, allows us to be able to practice very, very complex maneuvers, such as, flame out of engines and the such, so that we can have stronger crew to be able to serve our clients. So that's really what we wanted to do. And we're so proud to have come to this level where we now are the first AW139 Level D full flight simulator in Africa on the continent. So we hope it's going to attract not only those other operators within Nigeria, but also those within the continent. And so they don't have to leave the continent to get the training needs. Absolutely. We are an approved training organization by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. And so we are open to third-party customers, other operators, not just in Nigeria, but also outside of Nigeria. They're more than welcome to come here to train at our facility. We believe it's a world-class facility and it will absolutely meet the training requirements. We will be getting a European Aviation Safety Authority approval, EASA approval, as well as the approval from the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. So we believe that this simulator will be certified to allow for those in Nigeria and outside Nigeria to come and train in comfort.
This equipment is really a top technology. It allows to train your pilots without risking their life, basically. So, and also it avoids additional costs because you don't fly with a real helicopter. So we are very proud to be delivering this simulator. This is the first in Africa full flight simulator with the highest level of certification. So very proud to be working with Caverton here in Nigeria. In terms of partnership, actually, we are not only a technology provider, we are also here to give them guidances in terms of certification approval, actually. It's not sufficient to have the equipment. You also need to show that you have the right procedures, the documentation. It's all about mindset, okay? So we are here also to support them in obtaining this certification from EASA and also from the Nigerian authorities.
This simulator will enable pilots become certified to fly the AW139 on the various Civil Aviation Authority approvals. With this significant investment and with the support from Thales, a globally renowned company, we believe that the simulator will ultimately benefit our customers and increase accessibility to world-class flight simulation training.
On our interview segment, an airline captain who presently runs Aero Contractors Airline is our guest. He starts by stating the importance of continuous training for cockpit crew. Let's hear more from him.
It's one of the training that, apart from is regulatory requirement, and it's also safety requirement. Safety requirement in the sense that, there are some certain exercises that you cannot do it on live aircraft. You cannot carry passengers and be doing some of the maneuvers, like when you go to simulators, you simulate all this engine fire, engine failure, evacuation, rapid decompression, like all this offset maneuver, like all the ground proximity warning system. All those exercises are something that you have to train should in case it happens, but you cannot use it, train it on live aircraft. So that's why pilots go for all this recurrent training. Recurrent training, you go for recurrent training just basically to do the emergencies in the simulator. That's why simulators are built, for people to just go and practice those emergencies that sometimes it's happen, and it can happen in reality. In real life, it can happen. So that's why they don't want you to forget. So after every 6 months, you go and just refreshing your memory on those items. So your growth pack, the only time that you practice, I'm just repeating because practically it's like the same question that you're asking. Practically is the same thing that you have to do over and over and over. Like training. Training in aviation is continuous training. No matter how experience level of your experience in aviation, you always go back for retraining. No matter the level, you can be flying for 60 years, but you always go back again for another training, all the time in aviation. It's a continuous training. Basically, like you said, you have to, whatever you do, the AMO is a business model. And if you look at the aim of aero contractors, is the only AMO West Africa sub-region for the 737 classes and the Bombardier -8 Q400s. So basically, in business generally, what we look at, okay, what is happening, you are preparing yourself for future. You don't allow future to catch up with you. You cannot sit down and say, okay, this is the type of aircraft we have, and our engineers are always trained on this one. Yes, what you do is a human development. You are looking at, in the next few years, what is going to happen. The classic that we are using, they are going to be out of phase. Now NG has come out, and even NG, we have the MAX coming out. I'm just talking about Boeing as a particular, because that is what we are maintaining. So what are we going to do? As now, we are doing training on classic. That is what we have, our AMO, right? So our engineers have already been training on the NG. That is the next generation aircraft. Because we are looking at very soon, airline like Arik already have NGs that are flying. Allied Air just brought it an NG at their cargo. So what are we looking at? They are taking their aircraft out for maintenance. But now we have to liaise with the civil aviation to get a variation to start maintenance on NG. So before you do that, is one of the requirements you must have manpower that are qualified to do that maintenance. That's why you have to train them. And not only the NGs. We are looking at even the E145. Despite the fact we don't have the license to maintain them, but our engineers have already, some of them have already been trained on that particular aircraft, because we are looking at this market for it. Already there are airlines that are bringing them all over the place. You see, United have them. There are a couple of private jets also that use the Embraer 145. Airpeace have Embraer 145. So we're looking at, as soon as we have our approval to start maintaining them, you see all those business, instead of them flying out of the country, they will be bringing in here for us to maintain them. This AMO of aero contractors has saved a lot of airlines, quite a number of funds that's supposed to be taken out of the country. And it has saved airlines, and it's still saving airlines, instead of you now to start looking for Forex. Because aviation, everything they do is just kind of like Forex. We know how scarcity is looking for dollars today in this country. And you cannot go to CBN and just get them like that, you know? So you have to go to black market, you have to find a way around it to get the funds that you're looking for. So now, if you bring your aircraft to aero contractors, we are going to charge you in Naira. And you find out that, okay, all your revenue is in Naira. So you have to take the money to go to black market, or if you go to central bank, you have to join the queue for you to get it. But if you bring the aircraft to aero contractors, the aero charge you in Naira. It saves you the cost of flying the aircraft out of the country, spending money on fuel, navigational charges, whatever per diem. Then you have to put your tech rep there, because if you are taking an aircraft to maintain an organization anywhere, you have to put your tech rep, that is your technical representative, have to be there and see what they are doing and make sure that it meets the regulatory requirement of Nigeria.
When Aviation This Week returns, Newsflash is next. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has foiled attempts by a 23-year-old secondary school leaver and a Europe-based Nigerian to export 9 kilograms of skunk and methamphetamine through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, to Turkey and Belgium. Lagos State says it has recorded 568 inbound passengers who have been permitted to enter Nigeria from 3 countries, India, Brazil and Turkey, despite the ban on travelers from these countries. The state government says over 100 passengers from this list have absconded from testing and quarantining and will have their passports deactivated for a minimum of 1 year if Nigerian, and if foreign will have their resident permits cancelled and deported as stated by the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19. Ahead of its recertification exercise, the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja has conducted an aircraft crash and rescue simulation exercise. In a simulated crash scene, the rescue response operations, the family-friendly situation, firefighters, emergency rescue operators and all relevant stakeholders were deployed in real time. Authorities at the airport say the exercise is meant to test the emergency response and collaboration procedures at the airport and ensures that all gaps will be closed.
You know, this exercise is to enable us to identify some failures to correct them. Yes, and so far so good. We are going back to assess ourselves inside the emergency operations center with all the stakeholders. We expect everybody to see. We have some observers that cover the exercise that to tell us what they think are the shortcomings, and then we'll work on them.
This application will be used by border agents.
Greece has presented its COVID-19 digital travel certificate, saying it's ready to use it before its European Union-wide launch on July the 1st. The Greek Prime Minister said this during a presentation in Athens attended by European Council officials. Greece was one of the early advocates of a certificate that would ease European Union travel curbs and help pull the country's economy from recession by lifting tourism revenues. The European Parliament is expected to pass a law in the week from June 7, and more than a dozen EU countries, including France and Spain, have agreed to test the system before the launch on July 1. The free certificate will take the form of a QR code on a smartphone or paper, letting authorities determine the status of a visitor based on records in their home EU country. A dedicated terminal for passengers arriving in the UK from countries with a high risk of COVID has opened at Heathrow Airport. Travellers arriving on direct flights from red list countries will now transit through Terminal 3. Heathrow said its top priority was protecting the public and helping reduce the risk of new variants. There are 43 countries on the red list, but direct flights are permitted from only India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. Direct flights are also allowed from Kenya, but the country has currently suspended air travel to the UK. Only British and Irish nationals or UK residents are allowed to travel from countries on the list. At London City Airport, the air traffic controllers have gone. Perched above the terminal building, the old control tower with its panoramic windows is empty of controllers. Monitors, a few pens and some hand sanitizers are all that remains. City became the world's first major international airport to switch to a remote digital tower earlier this year and went public less than 2 weeks ago. The airport, nestled beside former dockyards a few miles east of London's Canary Wharf financial district, is London's smallest. Before the pandemic, it had 5 million passengers a year, mostly traveling on business to European destinations like Frankfurt and Amsterdam. City planes now take off and land guided by air traffic controllers who are based 90 miles away. They direct the airport using information from a newly built taller control tower stacked with 16 high-definition cameras and multiple sensors. The switch to remote air traffic control has raised a few eyebrows, but London City's Chief Operating Officer says so far it has worked seamlessly.
So the existing air traffic control tower was over 30 years old and required some significant investment to upgrade it. We also have implemented some new aircraft stands and we needed to change the location of the air traffic control tower. So we've moved location, and this is our new digital air traffic control tower. We cut over to that on the 23rd of January this year and began operating first flight from the 24th. And what that does is deliver digital air traffic control capability, and it's the first of its kind anywhere in the world at this scale.
Metal spikes guard the top of the 50-meter tower to protect the cameras from birds, and each camera has a self-cleaning mechanism that stops insects and debris from blurring images. Those images then travel multiple separate high-speed fiber links to the remote center in Swanwick, Hampshire, where London City's air traffic controllers are relocated. The live sound of the airport is piped into the new control center so that controllers still hear the plane's engines roaring into life and the reverse thrust of touchdown. And the 14 screens in the Swanwick control center are not at risk from a buffering internet or lost connection.
We're used to dealing with data and presenting that data to our controllers so that they can keep the aircraft separate, safely apart whilst they travel. So it's much the same here for the tower. We're using the data, we're presenting the pictures, we can see it, you can see it behind me. It's very much like sitting in the tower and seeing the aircraft operating. So it's a digital reproduction of the live picture. What you're seeing today is the live picture at London City. Then enhanced with additional data like aircraft call sign, maybe the route that it's going to, maybe the stand that it's going to. It allows us to add all of that to the data. So are there risks? Well, we think we've got all the risks well covered. So cybersecurity is well covered, for example. In terms of the job for the controller, it's very much like doing it in the same way as they would in the air traffic control tower.
For City Airport, the new remote tower, which costs just less than £20 million to design and build, is not about saving money. With the new technology, City's current number of controllers will be able to handle more plane movements once flying recovers after the pandemic. City will also be able to handle 45 plane movements per hour, up from 40 in 2019.
So we think that the digital tower is going to revolutionise how we can deliver airport services. So it allows us to reproduce what we do today, it allows us to further enhance that job, and potentially allows us to group together different airports in one place and present different ways of efficiently delivering the service to the airport customer. So it really is the tip of the iceberg of improvement to what we can do for the airport ATC.
So fundamentally, the job hasn't changed. It's still about the controller's eyes finding the aircraft and monitoring it visually. The difference is we're using screens instead of windows.
The airport's plan for a remote tower dates to 2016, when it realized that in order to go ahead with a £500 million expansion plan to fit in extra bigger planes, it would need to significantly invest in the old control tower. It decided instead to build a new one, given the efficiency benefits offered by a new remote technology developed by Swedish company Saab. Heathrow, Britain's busiest airport, is also considering remote control towers in its future plans. This is where we wind down on the program. See you next time, God's willing. I'm Bukola Joe Kitsumbi.